It's Thursday, the 8th of September 2022. Welcome to the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Adam Lang, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Adam.
Story number 1, Sean, the Australian economy expanded at a 0.9% clip during the June quarter, taking the annual pace of growth to 3.6%.
That's right. Of course, it was helped by an easing of COVID restrictions. It was a pretty strong result. Basically, people ate out more, they travelled more, that's both at home and overseas, and we had record commodity prices. While interest rates are rising and there's plenty of concerns over the rising cost of living, the Bureau of Statistics figures released yesterday show an economy in, dare I say, rude health. Now, Treasurer Jim Chalmers said the GDP figures show an economy rebounding from COVID-19 pandemic disruptions, but held back by capacity constraints, declining real wages and skills shortages. I think that was pretty accurate. One of the interesting facts from the data yesterday, the household savings rate continues to drop. It soared during the pandemic, but people are now spending all the money that they've built up. That, of course, is helping the economy. Big question, will it keep going? In short, no. In fact, the Reserve Bank expects the economy to expand by between 2 and 2.5% this financial year. That's a lot less than last financial year. Of course, we have higher interest rates kicking in, and that will slow household spending. So too will inflation. Spending more on groceries doesn't leave as much for discretionary spending. Commodity prices, with a few notable exceptions like coal and gas, have come off. That'll slow net exports. Falling house prices won't help, nor will a tough federal budget later in the year. In fact, we're already seeing problems in some sectors, notably construction. Quite the week for the economy. Yesterday's GDP figures showed things were good in June, but maybe that's when they were at their best.
All right, Sean, story number 2. In response to both the GDP figures and fears of a global slowdown, there's plenty happening in international markets.
Oh, there is, international and local markets. Let me just quickly mention the ASX before I get on to what's happening overseas. ASX finished down 1.4% yesterday. Now, that's its lowest since July. A lot of the big names fell. Mostly that was about overseas news and fears of a slowdown rather than the GDP figures. What's happening in global markets? The US dollar continues to appreciate against other currencies, including the Aussie. Basically, investors like the greenback in times of uncertainty, and we're living in uncertain times. The Aussie dollar is trading around 67 US cents. That's the lowest for a while. Gold, which sometimes is considered a hedge against inflation, is also losing friends. An ounce fell back below $1,700 US yesterday. Oil prices hit their lowest level since January on concern that the slowdown will cut demand in Europe and the US. Now, we like that a little bit. Brent crude's back to $91 US a barrel. That should help the price of petrol, hopefully. And just quickly, Adam, digital currencies aren't enjoying all this either, with Bitcoin falling back below $19,000 US a unit yesterday.
Sean, another big story at number 3. China's ambassador to Australia said he's been working with the Foreign Affairs Department on a high-level meeting between Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and Chinese President Xi Jinping.
It certainly would be welcome given the poor relations between the two countries. Now, Mr Albanese said he'd welcome one-on-one talks if they eventuate. They're most likely to happen on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Indonesia in November. The change of government here has relieved some of the tension between the two countries, but there's still plenty of angst over everything from trade barriers to China's influence in the region to Beijing's engagement with Taiwan. There was another diplomatic breakthrough last night. Solomon Islands Prime Minister Manasseh Sogavare will visit Australia next month. The Solomon Islands Prime Minister earlier this year signed a deal with China, pulling the nation closer to Beijing, triggering concerns in Canberra about the influence of China. It then banned visits from US and UK vessels, then got upset at Australia for offering to help fund elections in the country. But just the fact that Mr Sogavare is coming and having lunch with Mr Albanese is a good sign.
Sean, we've got a travelling story at number 4. If you think it's getting more expensive to fly around the country, you're right. A competition watchdog report shows a sharp spike in prices over the past 4 months.
Yes, this is in honour of Michael Thompson, who of course has flown to Fiji for a few days. Hence, Adam, you and I are speaking. Now, the cheapest airfares in August were more than 50% above the cheapest airfares in April. Mind you, April airfares were at an 11-year low. Still, discount airfares in August were at their highest point in 2 years. Business airfares rose by 17% between June and August. 3 main reasons. People want to fly more, i.e. more demand. There's been temporary capacity reductions in part due to staffing issues and jet fuel prices have jumped. The other thing which I think was interesting, the ACCC, who put out the report, said Qantas, Virgin and Rex all increased their market share between April and July 2022 at the expense of Jetstar.
Wow. Sean, story number 5. About half of US workers could be described as quiet quitters, according to research by survey firm Gallup.
Yes. Basically, a quiet quitter describes a worker's mindset whereby they feel less connected to their organisation's mission, less clarity around what's expected of them, and they see fewer opportunities to learn and grow. Basically, they're psychologically detached from their work. According to the Gallup survey of 15,000 full-time and part-time workers, 50% met that definition. Incredible. 32% are actively engaged and 18% are actively disengaged. Put the actively disengaged and the quiet quitters together, that's more than 2/3 of the workforce. Guess what? Gen Zers and millennials are the most likely to fit into that category.
Sean, psychologically detached. Speaking of that, our colleague Michael Thompson is both geographically and psychologically detached at the moment.
I hope he is.
On a beach in Fiji, hopefully.
Yeah.
Sean, that's it. That's the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam.
It's Thursday, the 8th of September 2022. Remember to hit follow on the podcast, and if 5 minutes isn't enough, then find our longer podcast called Fear and Greed on your podcast platform. I'm Adam Lang, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.